Hello, good evening, and welcome to Aaron James Glasgow Rangers Nation live, guys. This is the final word as we come to the end of this weekend. Obviously, there hasn't been any football. Usually, what we like to talk about, obviously, on the final word will be the match, will be the outcome from the weekend. We'll be looking at obviously all the games in the SPL, looking at the world of football coming out of the weekend and how it affects our mighty Glasgow Rangers, our Rangers FC, the team that we all love and adore. Well, look, before we start tonight, just a couple of heads up, a bit of housekeeping. Obviously, this is the final word. Every Sunday we'll be going live at either 8. I think I'm going to make it 8 o'clock on a Sunday, going live, bringing you the final word on the weekend. So that's every Sunday. We'll be bringing you that. So obviously, please look out for that and have that bookmarked in your diaries as we seek to grow the channel. We're on 5,836 subs at the moment. So obviously, please keep those subs coming in as we seek to grow the channel to around 6,000 subs by June next year at the latest. Obviously, we'd hope to get to 6,000 by the end, obviously, of August and the start of the season. Also, a little bit of housekeeping as well. We have got our all brand new, all singing, all dancing X page now that I've had some help with from an outsider and the guy, a bit of advice on putting one up there. So this is our new X feed. It's at OJGRN72. It's got my ugly mug on it. Glasgow Rangers Nation, Owen James. Obviously, a big part of the channel now is obviously, trying to obviously take a big ownership of it. Look, guys, you know my heroes. CJ Novo, love CJ Novo. Massive fan of Mark Goldbridge as well. So yeah, that's what I'm aiming to kind of emulate, build towards. So if you're on X, give us a follow at OJGRN72. And you can also find us on Instagram as well, Glasgow Rangers Nation, and on TikTok, OJGRN72. That's the places you can seek us and you can find us. Okay, let's have a look first of all before we get started talking tonight. We're going to talk a little bit of the Kenny McLean deal, look at Kenny McLean as a player. We're also going to talk about strikers because I think that is still an issue that we do need to address. We're not going to talk particularly about the defence tonight because of the fact I put that video out earlier about the defensive crisis, even though I've been accused of clickbaiting. I think we have got a defensive crisis. I genuinely do. I just think with the centre-backs, the quality of centre-back that we currently have at the club, well, there is a crisis there. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Gaza72, interesting take from Gaza. Says, I don't like to say it as I like your videos and watched them for a couple of years now, but you're getting a bit clickbait now, mate. Do you really need so many videos per day? Thing is, mate, this is the way it goes now in the football content creation world. If you look at the big creators, you look at the likes of Mark Goldbridge, for example, you look at Joe Wainman, you look at the top guys that are producing, massive, huge amounts of subscribers, huge amounts of views. It is the guys that are putting 2-3 videos a day. Butler is here in the live chat as well. Butler, my service. Thank you, Butler, for being at my service. Please obviously smash the like, guys. He voted Miovski. We have got a poll running. Which striker would you like to see signed in this summer window? Options are Shankland, Miovski, Rahmani, and it says other. Please comment. So please look out for that. RFC56 has got a comment here. Let's bring his comment up. He says, Shankland has goals on his side. Miovski has age and goals. Maybe not as many as Shanks, but it's a hard one in his opinion. We will get to that. We will talk all things, obviously, strikers shortly. Janet is in the live chat. Says, good evening, Owen and fellow Bears. Good evening, Janet. RFC56 also in the live chat as well. Says, not a fan of McLean because of his age in 33 in January, but I suppose might be all right for a year or two. Stuart in the live chat. Evening all. Stuart, how you doing? How is Stuart tonight? Also here, Stephen. Stephen, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you here in the live chat. And lots of people saying hello to each other. Would like Miovski, but feel the sheep would price us out. We will get to this, Janet. We will talk about strikers, obviously. Good evening, Owen, lad. Keep the videos going, lad. We'll support you all the way. Thank you very much, David. Very kind of you to comment on that. Ian Chisholm says, great work, Owen. Thank you, Ian. I do try. Right, guys, I'll just be honest with you. It's my aim to do this full time. I want to hopefully, get to a point where, look, I'm not here to take money off you. That's not the way it works. That's why I don't charge you for content. If you want to donate money to the channel through a super chat, a super sticker, or a super thanks, that's wonderful. I don't, beg that from you. I'm not that sort of content creator. You do want to join the channel, 99p. But I produce multiple videos for free, for nothing. The way we make money on the channel is through the video views. That's how we make the channel, through advertising revenue from YouTube. So that's how we make the money, guys, and that's how it'll always be. So that's my aim to this full time eventually. So I haven't got to work in my shit retail management job. Still annoyed, Owen, that we haven't fixed the right side. Me too. Stuart, 100%. Vladdy84 says McLean will be a good signing and leave a few folk with egg on their faces. So where are we up to with the old Kenny McLean debate? So Kenny McLean, obviously the deal was dead. The deal was alive again. And look, it was initially reported by a number of outlets that it was dead. It was dead and buried, that Rangers weren't prepared to give him the contract length that he wanted. I mean, all the talk was that it was, Rangers were offering him a year's deal. He's got a 2-year deal with an option of 1 more year at Norwich. So, look, that was where we were up to with that. And that's where this deal was at. So it looked like it was over. Then it now looks, according to Heart and Hand, who said it's a bit premature, to 4 Lads as well, to Rangers Review now. I've kind of backtracked a little bit on what they said. It was Rangers Review after all the story that it was over and done with. So look, that's where we're at this moment in time. The deal doesn't seem to be dead. His agent commented with laughing emojis to the fact that the deal was dead because of contract length and money. So look, this is the position we're in now. If we look at our midfield as it stands at this moment in time, we've got Connor Barron, we've got Mohamed Diamande, who I think is a class act. We've got Nicholas Raskin, Dujon Sterling. At the moment, these players haven't left the club yet. Kieran Dowell, Tom Lawrence, Bailey Rice, Carl McKinnon. So there's 8 options there to play in that midfield role. For me at this moment in time, if you ask me to pick my 8 and my 6, if you asked me to go out there for that game against Ajax on the 13th, I would put Sterling at 6. I would put Diamande at 8, and then bring Barron on in the second half. That's where I'd want. That's where it would be. But that's just me, and I'm no expert. And you probably might say, "Thank God, Owen." William N01 says we should be looking at signing Maya Leader from Hertha, who was on loan at Hibs. We should never be paying 6 to 7 million for Miovski. Even though he is a decent player, we need to find these players first. Good shout from William. Always got good things to say, William. Not for me. Don't worry. Want to sign anyone for. Give Lovelace a chance. Wouldn't give the Dons Heart no cash, says James. I mean, Lovelace is an option. We will get to that as obviously shortly. I'm sure the manager is working on it. I'm sure he is. I know we're talking strikers, but what is happening with Suter? Does anyone know? We'll eventually get to that. I don't want McLean unless it was free. We shouldn't be buying anyone at his age. It's madness, says Prime Time. The video on defence earlier was absolutely spot on. We must sign defenders to start as Cavan goals and get ripped on that side almost every game. Need addressed, says Will. Thank you, Will. We've got a comment here that says Rahmani is following a Glasgow cafe. We're not going to get into that, are we? When this thing about social media again, when players unfollow certain things and refollow other things and, like certain posts, and all of a sudden, we're putting 2 and 2 together and getting 12, aren't we? That suddenly, just because Kylian Mbappe has liked something in there, has liked the bar in Glasgow, he's coming to Rangers. I mean, I'm not saying I'm just using it as a ridiculous example. Stephen, mate, hope so, because it's a massive worry for me going into next season. Agreed. We've got a comment here says, agreed, James. I prefer Lovelace and a Shaka to get a shout. It's a good shout. Good shout. Shouldn't go anywhere near McLean, says William. Hello to Aldo. How you doing, Aldo? RFC 72 says, McLean is a replacement for Dowell, then it makes sense. And if it's around 1 million, says RFC 72. Evening, RFC. How you doing, buddy? I mean, yeah, the thing is, though, Dowell is still at the club, isn't he? There hasn't been any... mine too, buddy. Mine too, Aldo. Yeah, there's no word yet that it's done, that Dowell's going anywhere. I haven't seen anything written down. I haven't seen anything rumored. I haven't heard any rumors of Dowell going anywhere at this moment in time. I mean, I certainly think that Kieran Dowell is someone that we could do with moving on. He's a good footballer. Look, don't get me wrong. I actually think Kieran Dowell's a decent player. I just think that he gets injured too often, that he's out. He's missed an awful lot of games. Really has. Stuart says Sterling is starting right back, but his injury record isn't great, so I worry Tav will be a big part of next season. I really hope he isn't. David Phillips says Diamande, Barron and Cantwell, my preferred 3 in the middle. I mean, that's a good 3, David. That is a really good 3. RFC says Tav Goldson stays means the board are not taking this serious. I would agree with that one. Vladdy loves a wee cafe follow. We all love a wee cafe follow, don't we? Get goals from the Tav gone now. Yes, it is, mates. It is the new home shirt. Absolutely. Love it. It's really nice, actually. It's really comfy. Bob, Tav needs to go. We need to move forward. What do we want to do? That Tav at right back. Good shout. We will get back to McLean in a minute. Celtic fans want Tav and Coulson to stay. What clues does that tell you? I agree with that one. I think Barron, Raskin and Diamande ahead of them will be a great midfield, Vladdy. That's another very good midfield, Vladdy. Well done. Good shout, mate. Dow with a pre-season will have a part to play for us. He would get into double figures from midfield if he can stay on the pot. Look, like I said, William, I personally don't have an issue with Kieran Dow. I think Kieran Dow is a good footballer. You know, I think the fact that Norwich fans actually were more disappointed with the fact that they lost Dowell over the fact that they lost Canwell, I think tells you a lot. I think it really does. RFC 72, this is what I would love to know. I'd love to know what players haven't travelled to Holland. I'm sure that will start to come through in the next 24 to 48 hours, buddy. So let's go back to Kenny McLean. So Kenny McLean is 32. He's 33 in January. He's a Rangers fan. You know, he's a defensive midfielder. He's a 6. And a lot of people think, you know, because John Lundstrom's gone, you know, they're kind of putting 2 and 2 together. And again, you know, presupposing that Kenny McLean is the answer to that John Lundstrom departure, that we do need someone to replace John Lundstrom. That is the conversation. I mean, personally, I do think that if we could bring in Reuell Waters, from Arsenal, come to play right back, then we could put Sterling into that 6 role. I do think Sterling would be very good in that 6 role. RFC says in the live chat, I thought you were spot on, Owen, with the video earlier. If Tav, Goldson go, 2 CBs needed, a right back, a winger, and a quality striker as well. RFC 6, I think that's got to happen. I mean, the defense for me, as I said on the video earlier, and I'm trying not to touch too much on it now. If you weren't sure, if you want to know more about the defense, what I think about the defense, go and check the video "Defensive Crisis" out. You know, that's what I think. Hope anyway. Although if Tav and Goldson were part of the first team next season, we'll struggle again. If they aren't, so prepare for a long, hard season. Not a bad player in, but like Lawrence, I'd refresh Dowell's wages with a younger, less injury-prone player. Like, you know, if we get an offer for him, I would take it. I would genuinely take it. And if someone comes in and gives us $1 million, $2 million for Dowell, I would take it. I genuinely would. Like I said, I've got no problems with him as a footballer. If he's still here next season, as long as he stays fit, I think he has a part to play. 80 people watching, please smash that like. And obviously, if you haven't subscribed, hit the sub, guys. It's a free channel. Kenny McLean wants 2 years and an option of 12 months. That's the issue. We can't be getting older players on these contracts, even though Ray McLean would be brilliant around the club, says David. I mean, that is the concern. The moment a player hits 33 and you're offering him a 2-year contract, that's 35 with the option for a further year, that's 36. Players, when they get to 32, 33, slow down. And you don't want to be paying, I would presume, big wages to McLean, because the guy's moved from the English Championship. You know, he's probably on a fairly decent whack at Norwich City. So, you know, at the end of the day, for me, guys, it is going to be a situation where you're going to have to pay him a decent wage, 25,000, 26,000 a week. And if you've got a situation where in a year's time, or even like 2 years' time, where he suddenly drops off a cliff, and you know he's off the pace, his tackles are off the pace, he slows down even more. You're sitting around with a player you don't want, who you can't sell on massive wages, who's not going to go anywhere. Because let's face it, if you're sat somewhere on 25, 26 grand a week, and you know that wherever you go, you're not going to get first team football, you're going to stay put. You're going to take the money. That phrase, big part of our recent issues. If he stays fit, time to move on. I agree. It is a big part of the problems. Yeah, absolutely. We need a new right back, 2 centre backs, and if Hefte starts to new fullback 4, try to win a league. Poor recruitment over the past few seasons has left us in a mess. Stuart, you're spot on. Do you think we need 2 strikers if Dessers goes? RFC 56, 100%. If Dessers goes, we do need 2 strikers. And the hold-up with Ibrox was not the steel, but some concrete blocks are the hold-up. Well, fair enough, Paul. I'll take your word for it. But what the club said was it was steel. So I don't know where the truth of that. The truth probably lies somewhere in between, buddy. McLean's on 25 grand a week. I'm sure he'd take a small cut to play for the club he loves. But would he? That's the thing. I mean, 20 grand a week, I suppose, would be a small pay cut, but it's still a lot of money to pay a player who, you know, might never, ever actually, who might in 12 months' time be suddenly not good enough. or, might be out of the reckoning. Never mind defence. We need 2 strikers, better wingers, midfield 2. However, it won't be a fix this season. Right order. It's going to take more than 1 window. Agreed. Sterling has to be playing in the 6 role for me. He's a machine. He's a player who is so pleasing on the eye. Everything he does is basic, but he does it very well. Well, you're right. He is. He'll run through walls for this club. He is a great tackler. He is a good defensive midfielder. And it's kind of something we've, stumbled on by accident, haven't we, with all those injuries? Absolutely. For footballer, Butler, it is a small pay cut. For me and you, it will be a massive pay cut, but for a footballer, it's nothing in football terms, isn't it? We do need it. We do need that. Although, yeah, 100%. That's unfortunately is the word. Now, if we look at Kenny McLean, player, okay, what is he good at? Well, according to the stats, I've been, going through some footy stats websites. I've been going through some scouting sites. He's good at holding on to the ball. He's good at tackling. He's good at long balls. Things he's not so good at, he's not very good at crossing the ball. He's not very good at shooting. That is not his strength. So he's not a goal-scoring midfield player. He's a defensive 6. That's what he really is. In terms of his assists, passing, and chance creation stats, he had 5 assists last year for Norwich, which is 0.1 per 90 minutes, which put him in the 71st percentile of central midfielders in the Championship. He had XG, or an XA in this case, of 9.07. He had that. He managed to achieve that 0.1 times per 90 minutes, put him in the 78th percentile. He made 3,087 passes last season, which was 65 passes per 90 minutes. So he made 65 passes per 90 minutes, which puts him in the 92nd percentile, which shows obviously that passing is one of his strong points. His successful passes he had made 3,087 passes. His successful passes were 2,604, which puts him at 54.9% success rate, which puts him in the 91st percentile. So his passing stats are fairly good. He made 32 key passes, which puts him at 0.67 key passes per 90, which puts him in the 45th percentile. He made 35 crosses in the Championship last season, which is 0.74 per 90, which is in the 46th percentile. Of his crosses, he attempted 35 crosses and only successfully completed 7 of them, which gives him a 20% cross success rate in the 47th percentile. So as you can see there, the strengths are very much around passing the ball, using the ball, but in terms of assisting, in terms of creating chances, in terms of putting the ball in the box, that is not one of his strengths. Okay, that's not his strength. He is very much a core defensive midfield player. That's what Kenny McLean is good at, winning the ball back and then giving it to someone else, which, look, at the end of the day, is perhaps something that we could do with, the fact that we could do with someone who just is there to win the ball, give it to Diomande, allow Diomande to go create. Now, one of the things you'd have to hope is that McLean won't drop too deep. One of the major weaknesses of Rangers last season for me was that when John Lundstrom won the ball, he won it very deep, which forced Diomande to come deep to get the ball. Diomande then couldn't be the influence that we needed him to be further up the park. Now, we've seen with Mohamed Diomande, when he has the ball in more forward advanced areas, he can be very dangerous. He can take a shot. He scored some goals last season. When he's in that forward area, he can make space by going past the player, by turning into space, by using the ball well, by giving it to the 10 further up the park. So the 10, therefore, is getting the ball deeper and able to influence the game more. That more advanced style suits Rangers and helps Rangers to become more attacking. The problem was last season when Lundstrom was getting it off the back 4 or getting it just in front of the back 4, he was then giving it to Diomande inside our half. Diomande then had a long way to go to get up to the 10. The 10 had to drop deeper, which lessened the effect they then had on the attacking half of the pitch. So in terms of his defensive stats, his dribbling stats are awful. 0.84 dribbles per 90, which is the 44th percentile. He had only 21 successful dribbles, which is 0.44, which is 47th percentile. His dribble success rate was 52%. In terms of his defensive stats, now we can see this is where his strength lies, is in his defensive play. Let's have a quick look at your comments before we talk Kenny McLean's defensive stats. McLean as a centre-back in home games against Livy, etc., does intrigue me. He did play at centre-half a few games for Norwich last season, Butler. I think the starting striker probably be one bet that plays best in the preseason. Good shout, Bobby. I mean, that could very well be the case. Janet says RFC 56 agreed, going to take time for them to gel, but they will get some time. Stuart says Coppin has been here since January. Clement said they were working hard behind the scenes. So why are we lacking quality? Is the board penny pinching, taking the fans for mugs? I think, Stuart, on that point, the issue is this: very much. I honestly believe what I've read and what I've heard, and I've been criticised for this, and people have said to me, "You don't know what you're talking about. Stop talking shit," etc., etc. But I honestly believe, mate, that until we actually shift some of these players off our wage bill and we actually take in some money through selling the likes of Scott Wright to Sheffield Wednesday, James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, Tom Lawrence, until we actually get some money into the club, I honestly can't see us going out and signing any vastly experienced players for any decent fees, because I genuinely think the board are penny pinching. I mean, I might be wrong, and I hope, you know what, I hope this week that I am proved wrong. I hope that this week the Rangers splash the cash and we sign a player for 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, or whatever. I really hope they prove me wrong. I really genuinely do. I'm not holding my breath, because if I hold my breath, I'd die. So look, that's where I think we're up to, buddy. I do think that this is a situation that we are in, that we are lacking finances to really do this rebuild properly. And I don't buy into this narrative that goes round that Michael Beale spent all the money, that's why we've got no money left. I think that's a load of horseshit. If you look at the last 4 windows, we're actually operating a net profit. Now, even if you took off signing on fees, loan fees, etc., we're still going to be operating at a substantial profit, given the money we brought in for Calvin Bassey, for Joe Aribo, for Glenn Kamara, for Fashion Sakala, for Tony Cholak, the 1.2 million windfall from Tillman, etc., etc. You know, the money we've brought in over the last 4 seasons actually vastly outweighs what we've spent. The actual net spend without transfer, without sign-on fees and loan fees for the last transfer window was minus 2.8 million. So you can probably factor it up to about 6 million at most. So look, I don't think the board are splashing a great deal of money. RT says Daniel will take about 6 months to get up to speed after that knee injury. People think, yeah, I think, agree with you. I do think we cannot judge Danilo too soon. I honestly believe that. RFC 72 just echoes what I said. Stuart, I don't think we'll sign players until we sell now, mate. I agree, RFC 72. Paul says, well, if we could sell Lammers and Dessers and the 2 tits at the back, we could get another striker and a really good CDM and maybe a winger, then we're laughing. Agreed, Paul. I agree. But it's come out today that Utrecht have pulled out of signing Lammers because they can't afford him. They can't afford his wages. Alkmaar, obviously the most realistic contenders for the signature of Lammers at this moment in time. 100%. RFC 70 Joe played a flat 3, and I think McLean at 6 with Dio and Barron and or Raskin. The 2 8s would overrun that mob. I did speak on another video, didn't I, about the fact that I do think that, if I'm being honest, that we will kind of go to a flat 3. I think that, that Clement doesn't particularly like a 10, and that he was only really using that 10 because he had no other choice. I really do think that, that he was just using the 10s because at the end of the day there was no other options with all the injuries we had, especially obviously to the midfielders. So look, I do genuinely think that is the case. So look, that's where I'm up to on that one, I think. Okay, let's just try and, before we get back to your comments, obviously, as I always say, your comments are so important to me here on the channel. Let's just get back to Kenny McLean's defensive statistics now. So goals conceded 62, but we can't really count him for that because Norwich weren't great defending last season. Clean sheets 13, 51st percentile. Tackles, 2 tackles per 90, 73rd percentile. So his tackle percentile's not that high. People talking about him being a great tackler. Well, it's not that high for actual tackles. 95 tackles in the whole of last season, with 46 games. So it was 48 games in the end, wasn't it, for Norwich? 54 interceptions, averages 1.14 per 90, which is 74th percentile. Ground duels 1. Now, this is the worrying one. He had a total of 398 ground duels, 8.39 per match. He had, which is in the 37th percentile for the championship. In terms of ground duels won, he won 238 of those 398. That's 5 out of the 8 that he went into. He won, which is in the 63rd percentile. Aerial duels won. He was in the 40. He had 42 of them. 0.89 per 90, 44th percentile. This is another worrying one for me. He was dribbled past 39 times in 48 games, which is an average of 0.82 times per 90 minutes. 0.82% per 90 minutes. 32nd percentile. That's really low. Clearances, 68 in the 61st percentile. He blocked 28 shots and he gave away 1 penalty. So that's the overall McLean stats. Look, I'm really split on this. People say, well, you know what, leave it to Clement, leave it to Coppin. Yeah, I agree. We leave it to Clement, we leave it to Coppin. If Philippe Clement is so sold on bringing in Kenny McLean, if he thinks Kenny McLean is such a good option, let him bring him in. Let him bring him in and we'll see what happens. But it doesn't stop us as fans from having opinions on this. Personally, I don't think it's a good move. Personally, looking at his statistics, I don't think he's as good as as some of what 4 lads have said. You know, you read some of the 4 lads stuff that's out at the moment. You know, they're saying he's a great tackler, he's a great ground duel, he's great at winning the ball back. You know, he'd be a great 6. I look at those stats, and I've looked at some other stats as well. I think it's on Footy XG. He's not that good. He's not one of the better ones in the championship. And are we again guilty of kind of going down the sign a championship duffer kind of average championship player? I think that's the worry for me. It really is. William says in the live chat, let's have a look if we can get William's comment up on screen. Well, hopefully we won't be playing Livingston since they're in the championship. Agreed. Russell's in the cup, maybe in the cup. Russell says the board of shit. They show they don't know their head from their arse. Goldson and Tav. Blue Nose says his Scotland career is over if he signs for us. Very true. If Steve Clarke is still the manager, it is dead and buried. Tav, Goldson are staying, cost high wage. Typical A. Agreed. Vladdy says you're not wrong, Owen. Unless we shift a major player, we won't be making any big signings. I 100% agree. I think until we start sell some of these players off, we're not going to bring in any more players. If we had the money, Seaman would be informing it. Agreed, Bobby. I agree. Why do people want us to spend loads of money? You don't need to spend big money. We spent millions already on the players we've brought in, says William. Are you talking about the players in the past, William, or the players now? Because if you're talking about the players now, we haven't spent a lot of money. But about the players in the past, I guess we have wasted an awful lot of money, but we have brought in a lot of money from player sales. Maybe if we qualify for the UCL, the board will allow higher finances. Good shout. We are WATP. Vladdy says WATP. I'd agree with that. If Gio never got shafted after qualifying for the Champions League, agreed. He did. I think Gio did get majorly shafted. I really do think that he did 100% get shafted by the board. Comments, but it is literally all over the place that I'm trying to keep off. Sorry, Janet, about the ads. I do apologise, and I'm not sure why that's coming through. Paul says, Owen, one problem we will have is this summer is keeping hold of Hadji after the way he played in the Euros. It'll be hard. I think that's a good shout. We need more Scots, so McLean makes sense, says Blue Nose John. Stephen says, McLean's stats don't sound good enough for us, in my opinion. James Muir says Raskin needs to keep injury free and get a good run. Look, I like that shout, James. I think, Raskin is a good player. I think he really is a good player. I think, we saw at the end of last season, didn't we, that when Raskin came back, once he'd had a bit of a run in the team, he got a few games under his belt. He actually looked to be getting back to the player that he once was. And the one thing that Raskin brings, I think, is something that's been lacking from our midfield for most of the season: his legs, speed, ability to get around the park. John Lundstrom was not the quickest. Dio is quite decent, but I think before the arrival of Dio, we didn't really have anyone who got around the park, had the legs to get around the park. Raskin, I think, if you look at that last game against Celtic, he was probably the best midfielder on the pitch, in my opinion. So look, I would agree with you on that one. I think that Raskin, needs a good run in the team. It's all whether the manager fancies him though. But I do like Raskin. I think he can, prove a point. Has McLean decided he wants to come to Jersey now? Well, Janet, it's apparently still under negotiation, is what I'm hearing. Still under negotiation. Kenny Miller says, sell Dessers is a mistake without a proven player who can come in. Speak English people are getting far too ahead of themselves to get him out, says Robert. Look, I don't think the argument is about signing a player. I think the only way we sign another striker, if I'm being honest, is if we sell Dessers and Lammers to raise money. I think that's the only way forward. The only Armstrong we should be signing is Stuart Armstrong if we want experience and goals from midfield. That's in reference to Danny Armstrong from Kilmarnock, who was suggested earlier. Raskin is a top player, says Caleb MUFC. I was watching Mark Goldbridge earlier, Caleb. Did you watch any of Mark Goldbridge's stuff? I love Mark Goldbridge. He's brilliant. Even though I'm not a Man United fan, I don't particularly like them. I do like Mark Goldbridge. Barron and Raskin could give us some energy, give us the energy and the dig we missed last season. I agree. I think they could. I genuinely think they could give us the dig and the fight that we missed last season, Vladdy. I think that's a brilliant shout. Stephen says, good evening all. I would sign Shanklin as he knows where the goal is. Keep Dessers for the Itten role, says Caleb. Agreed, Robert. I would keep Dessers as a backup striker. With the amount of injuries Rangers players pick up, better the devil. You know, the only worry, Janet, is do you really want a backup striker sat on the bench at 27 grand a week? That's the one. That is a slight worry for me. Look, I think if we can, I think my personal opinion is if we can get £6 million for Cyril Dessers now, if we can get Power or whoever else is interested in him, I think I would take the money. I would take the money. 100% take the money, because in 12 months he ain't going to be worth £6 million. In 2 years, you know, whenever his contract ends, he isn't going to be worth anything. So I think, you know, if you can get £6 million for him now, you can make that £1.5 million profit on a £4.5 million player. I think you'd be stupid not to take the money, especially as if we're serious about this trading model. No matter what you think about Dessers as a player or as a striker, you know, at the end of the day, if you can make a profit on a player who's 29 years old, I think you could honestly, you'd be stupid to turn it down. You'd be absolutely stupid to turn it down. We're speaking about forward players, but other than Nsiala, we need better centre backs. I agree, Caleb. Like I said, Caleb, if you want to talk about, I'm not going to particularly talk about defence tonight because I talked about that on the defensive video, which was put out about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Check it out. More Scots, more Rangers fans to sign Shanklin and McLean, please. Rangers, says Blue Nose John. Hope you're doing well, Blue Nose John. £6 million for Dessers. He's 30 in December. No brainer. Well said, Owen. I think that's the thing for me. It is really a no brainer. Now, we look at the poll tonight. So the poll that I'm running is looking at strikers. Who would you like to sign? So at the moment, 39% of you say Shanklin, 33% say Miovski, 19% say Rahmani, and 9% say someone else. But I haven't seen any comments yet as to who they want to sign it. Who they want yet? What have we got here? More Scots, Northern Irishman, just Jers fans. Absolutely, says Caleb. Absolutely, Caleb. Last Chance Saloon, sell cereal. If you get 4.5 to 6 or 6 million for Dessers, put it straight into Shanklin. Shanklin, when he came in at the Euros, had some bite to him. Agreed, Mark. I don't know why Steve Clark didn't use him. I genuinely don't. I don't. Anyone that doesn't want to sell Dessers is mad. Would rather have Shanklin than give that Aberdeen over the odds for Miovski, says Janet. Schiphol Airport is one of the main routes for the world. A good place to go during the transfer window for ins and outs. Will Beside says, Owen, do you know if there's any truth in Rangers takeover coming soon? Watched a video earlier stating that a foreign investor was looking to buy and they're not the typical fan buyer. Well, I don't know a great deal about this at the moment. I haven't looked into the transfer rumours yet. And so the buyout rumours I will look into it. We need to build a strong team to beat the team from across our city to get 56 league titles. We certainly do, buddy. Steve Clark should be sacked after that shambles. Agreed, Aldo, but he won't be because they're too used to getting it their own way. If you're going SPFL, then Miovski surely far more mobile, younger than Shanklin. Right, look. For me, we do need a striker. 100%, we need a striker. You know, you look at the striking options we have at this moment in time. Okay, so the striking options that Rangers currently have on the books, if the season started today, is Danilo, Dessers, and Igman. Okay. We do need that. We do need to bring in, I think, another striker. Even if Dessers stays, I think we do need to bring in someone. I don't see Dessers as been the top striker. I think Danilo will need time to work his way back in. Igman is an interesting one. I was reading a great article earlier that was talking about how we signed Morelos for $1 million, and he was fairly unknown at this point. And you know, at the end of the day, he came in and was a success for Rangers. So look, you know, maybe Igman will be the next Morelos. You know, maybe, you know, in 2 years' time, he'll be a player that we do flip for an awful lot of money. Who knows? Who knows? But it's putting a lot on a young kid who has not played any minutes in European football, isn't it? To kind of expect him to come in, hit the ground running, score goals, be an elite Rangers number 9. We just don't know enough about him. So for me, we need to get someone who's going to score goals. We definitely do need to get someone who's going to score goals. And this is one of the big stumbling points. And I think Blue Nose John makes a brilliant point here. He says, no way I'm enriching Aberdeen by $8 million for Miovski. Yeah, I agree. The one downside to trying to sign Miovski for me is the amount of money that Aberdeen will want for him. Now, if it was Celtic going in and bidding for Miovski, I think they'd happily accept 6-7 million. I think if it's Feyenoord, they'd accept 7 million, 8 million pounds. I think if it's a team from France, I think they'd accept 7-8 million pounds, 6 million maybe. Because it's Rangers, I think they'd bump the price up to 9-10 million. I honestly think that is a real, a real possibility. I just genuinely think that they, of course, will be. Bobby, I think there's zero chance of that, mate. I genuinely think that, there is realistically a chance that Aberdeen will want to fleece as much money out of us because of the perceived rivalry between Aberdeen and Rangers. So I don't see that as being an option. I don't see Miovski as much as I would look personally. That's the player I would sign. I would sign Miovski. I think Miovski's a top striker. He knows where the goal is. He's quick. He's good in the air. He's skillful. He's a better player than Shankland in my estimations, but I just think that Aberdeen will want far too much money for him, and that is the big problem for me. What's the point of our academy, says Robert, if we can't bring through a striker through? I agree. I mean, look, Zach Lovelace, does he get a go? Ishaka Thompson, does he get a go? Josh Gentles, does he get a go? But the one worry, really, Robert, though, is the fact that these kids are untried. Zach Lovelace has had very little first-team football due to injury. Ishaka Thompson's had no first-team football. Josh Gentles has had no first-team football. So I suppose the worry is that, if Danilo is not doing it, if Dessers is not doing it, if Igman's not up to pace yet, then you're putting a lot of faith in kids who've actually had no first-team football. And I think long-term, Robert, I agree. Josh Gentles, Ishaka Thompson, Archie Stevens, Zach Lovelace should all be given an opportunity in the first team, and we should see them off the bench. I certainly think that is one to go with. Game reminds me of the young Alfie, very physical but technically raw. Yeah, talking about Igman. Stuart says, Danilo hasn't kicked the ball for months. It's going to take him time. Absolutely, 100%. That's what we need to give him time. Give him time. Dessers at 30 gives us a break. Get him sold while we can. Agreed. What have we got? Oh, God, it was skipping comments again. Comments everywhere, guys. I do apologise. Comment, I apologise. We got here as Owen, would Barron be the attacking type midfielder? I mean, if you look at his breakdown on Transfer Market, Caleb, he can play as a central midfielder, a defensive midfielder, or an attacking midfielder. He's very much a hybrid modern player, so he can play anywhere for definite. Doesn't matter who they support as kids, as long as they give 100% every time they put on the colours. Agreed, James. Spot on, buddy. Spot on. Dessers reminds me of Windass. Good numbers, but a shite player, says Vladdy. Defence can play anywhere. Mark Webster. Hey, Mark, how you doing? I wouldn't give Aberdeen the money. Shankland would be better by due to the Aberdeen tax. Agreed. 100%. Stuart says he's more of a defensive midfielder. Like I said, Stuart, I have seen him play in all those different positions. If you look at his breakdown on Transfer Market, he played the majority of games as a central midfielder last season. Just signed Harry Kane. God, no thanks. But Big Phil, that'd curse us to never win a trophy ever again. He is the trophy curse. There's a good free transfers out there. Less money than giving some football teams in the SPFL. Russell, decent shout. I'm sure there is. I haven't looked into it yet. Owen, he's a better player, but Shankland can score for a fraction of the price. Agreed, Janet. I agreed. Look, I'm not saying, Janet, for a minute that if we signed Shankland, I'd be violently opposed to it. I'd love it. If Lawrence Shankland came if Rangers announced tomorrow morning that Lawrence Shankland was signing from Hearts I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. If Sharon Shankland pulled this jersey on the first day of the season, I'd love it. Absolutely love it. I don't think it's realistic, but I love it. I hope we get a big clear out, bringing a striker, a winger, seamer, a defensive mid, an attacking midfield, and 2 centre halves, says Huckster. It's a big ass shopping list, Huckster. Hope you've been saving up. Hope you've been saving up for this one. Zach Lovelace did play well on the right test. He did, didn't he? In that game against St Mirren, he gave a very impressive 45 minutes. Academy players with no first team football, whose fault is that? Get them in. I agree, Ken. Whose fault is that? Michael Beale, Philippe Clement. It's all their fault. All their fault. And if you go back across my videos, Ken, you will see that I am a massive advocate for using our young players. I was a big advocate for putting Robbie Fraser in the team. I'm a massive advocate for Bailey Rice. So much so, I think I got a super chat once in a live stream for not mentioning Bailey Rice's name once. So look, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for using them. I think we can use them off the bench to have impact. 100%. I'm excited by Barron. I think he can do it all. Caleb says he's box to box. Janet, yeah, he has been shit. Harry Kane in the Euros. What have we got? Here we got get him in from Aberdeen. I believe you can get a sell. Look, I agree. I think if we could get him in for Aberdeen for a reasonable price, then there is a big sell on because he's a young player. And I think, give him 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, you're looking at a big profit on him, a huge profit on him. But it's whether Rangers have the money for that initial outlay of the amount of money that Aberdeen are going to charge us for him. That is the big worry. Mark, my video earlier, defensive crisis, go back and check it out. At this moment in time, after the obviously failure to get Cordoba, the failure to get Gadalmez, it's all gone quiet with centre-backs, Mark. So no links to centre-backs at this moment in time. If Lawrence Shankland was signed on the 12th, I'd be dancing. Absolutely. What a day. That'd be a great day to sign him, wouldn't it, Vladdy? Absolutely brilliant day to sign him out. David, you don't have to convince me of that, buddy. I love Abdallah Seema. And that's another one. I think, Seema is a player who genuinely could come in and play up front. He can play in a number of positions. Janet, nothing at the moment. Nothing in the moment. Blue Nose, we'll get the old gang back together. Alfie, Kent and Aribo, for instance. That would cost a lot of money. Well, Kent wouldn't. I don't think Kent and Alfie would, but Aribo would cost you at least 5-6 million from Southampton. Does anyone know about the young Hearts striker we signed from Hearts? Alfie Hutchinson, I think his name is. Good player, very much in the youth team. Will not be going anywhere near the first team in the near future, mate. But he is a very talented player. David, if Seema doesn't come back, it's just another sign this board are not the men to take our club forward. I agree with you 1,000,000% on that one. I'm sure if Rangers are interested in Miovski, they would have had a conversation already. Yeah, agreed. I mean, something that really bugged me about how Clark always picks Adams. So I looked at his numbers and Shanks as well. Now this Adams, 164 appearances, 41 goals. Shanks, 74, 48. Is that not a bit sus? Yeah, I agree, mate. That is massively sus. You look at that's just crazy, isn't it? That's crazy. I mean, that's 1 in 4 for Adams, more than 1 in 2 for Shankland. Yeah, I agree. I think Steve Clark's an idiot. I think he's one of the worst managers in international football. I think the only manager who's worse than him is Gareth Southgate. I think Gareth Southgate is genuinely worse than Steve Clark. But yeah, I agree. Very sus. 4 million and a hefty signing on would. Yeah, I agree. 100% Vladdy. I think that would definitely happen. Look, I'd love Abdallah Seema back. I think he could help with our striker problems. I think he can play through the middle as well as out wide. Give us a number of options. Check out the Canadian centre-back playing in the Copa America. One plays for Watford. They did well via Argentina. I will look at that, Ken. What no one is saying is we don't want to lose Butland. I agree 100%. We do not want to lose him. Mark, you are right. Seema and Cortez will scare the crap out of defences in the SPL. They are strong. They are quick. They are direct. They are skillful. And they will run rings from Johnson and Taylor. The big rebuild, I would depend on, of course, how many duds we can offer. Exactly, Huckster. It is very much, I think, very much down to... Sorry, I've just read Caleb's comment. I'll bring it up in a minute. Steve, bye-bye, Rangers. Clark, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Seema will be brilliant to get back. I'd love him back. Caleb says, Clark and Southgate are the types to obey the law in Grand Theft Auto. Those of you who don't know what Grand Theft Auto is, it's a computer game where you can genuinely steal cars, go with prostitutes, blow stuff up, kill people randomly, set people on fire, set buildings on fire, just generally cause as much mayhem and havoc as you want. Yeah, I agree. Gareth Southgate and Steve Clark would keep to the law in GTA. I've seen some brilliant memes about Gareth Southgate. I mean, ones I've seen is that after every wank that Gareth Southgate has, he takes the morning after pill. I read one that someone put, I'd like to thank Gareth Southgate. My nan, who's been bedbound since 1973, got up and turned the telly off the other day because the England game was that bad. I've seen some brilliant memes. One this morning was, if you gave Gareth Southgate the choice of Margot Robbie or Jennifer Aniston, he'd pick Susan Boyle. Just some brilliant ones. Agreed, David. Too many times our board has let good players slip through our fingers as they won't pay the money asked for them. Agreed. 100%. Seema wants to come back. The club want him. I think it will be done. Stephen, I really hope it gets done because I think he's a top player, a brilliant player. I love Abdallah Seema. Love him to bits. Okay, so 39% of you want Shankland. Look, I think Shankland is a good striker, and I think he'd score goals at Rangers. I think he'd score you 20. I think he'd score us 25 to 30 goals for definite. I really do think he would score 25 to 30 goals in this team. He'd score more than Dessers. I think if we'd had Shankland from January, I think he would exceed Dessers' score total for the rest of the season. I think he would score 20, 25 goals in the back half of the season. And I honestly believe, and you can call me stupid for believing this, but I think if Shankland had been signed in January, we win the league. I genuinely think we win the league. Now, the 2 points that kind of put you off, put me into the camp of I don't think Shankland is an option, is the rumour that Hearts want 5 million. I don't think Rangers would pay that for a player who's out of contract next season. And I haven't read anything that appears to indicate that Philippe Clement is interested in Shankland. I don't think that Clement thinks that Shankland fits his system. I don't think that Clement thinks that Shankland is a Rangers player in terms of the fact that his system, his way of doing things. So that's the thing that I'm kind of thinking about with the whole Shankland thing. 100%. I'd love Sakala back. He and Seam on the wings would wreck the SPFL. Sakala was amazing last season in the Saudi Pro League, wasn't he? Seeing that Rangers are going to be looking at loans now instead of buying players. Russell, I hope that's not true. Although apparently, is it Clark, the player from Liverpool, that they're interested in loaning? I'll look at that for the morning news video. David says, Cortez on the left, Danilo through the middle, Seam on the right would bring our title home. Mate, that would... Look, I said, right, I've said this. If we went into next season with Barron, Raskin, Diamande in midfield, and you went get up against Hatate, O'Reilly if he's still there, and who's that other idiot? McGregor, most overrated player in the Euros. And then up front, you had Cortez one side, Seema the other, Danilo through the middle. I honestly think those 6 could win us the league. Honestly think those 6 stay fit and healthy all season, they win us the league. 100% win us the league, mate. I think Shanks is worth 5 million, but not only with only a year for his deal. Agree, he probably would be. If he had 2 years left on his deal, it's a reasonable fee. It's a reasonable fee. Attack wins you games, defense wins you titles. Caleb, you sound like an NFL fan. Defense wins you championships. Defense wins championships. Offense wins games. Defense wins championships. Look, getting back to what we're talking about here. I mean, how soon will Clement lose his job if he doesn't get a prolific striker like Shankland? Great shout, John. I honestly think that, if we were to go and lose that first Old Firm game on the 1st of September, he's under massive pressure. He's under massive pressure then for that. Guys, I've just got to show you something. I've got to show you something. This is mad. This is my dog currently at this moment in time. Just look at that. Just look at that. I mean, what is that? That's my dog at the moment. Very unprofessional, guys. Do apologise, but I just had to show you that because it's comedy value. Comedy value. Janet says he's the most overrated player in Scotland. Who? Shankland? Caleb sounds like Sir Walter. Look, we're all Sir Walter fans. We all love Sir Walter. God rest his soul. I would have a charity bet with you if we buy Shankland and Dessers stays. Dessers will score more. Robert, I think you're wrong on that one, buddy. Cracked my bloody. Mine does the same, says Caleb. I think about my dog in that instance. Look, we do need a striker. I think even if Dessers, McGregor, yeah, he is absolutely the most overrated player in Scotland. Janet, I agree. For me, McGregor, unless he can referee games and intimidate people, he's an awful player. I will, buddy. I am. It's on the plan, mate. It's on the plan soon, John. Guys, we do need a striker. Even if Dessers stays, we need a striker. For me, it's an absolute must. We need to bring in a striker, even if Dessers stays. You need 4 decent strikers. You really do. We do need 4 decent strikers. If we were to have Danilo, Dessers, Igman, and another, whether that's Miovski, Rachmani, Shankland, whoever that is, for me, that would give us a decent 4 strikers if Dessers is just a backup. But like I said, the worry is, can you afford to have someone sat on the bench on 27 grand a week? That's the big worry. If it is true that PAOK are interested in him, we can get 6 million for him, take it. Barron had O'Reilly and McGregor in his pocket. He did, absolutely, Caleb. Spot on in the semi-final. Barron walked all over them. Go back and check it out. I don't watch Celtic games, any Celtic games, unless they're playing us. But apparently, he absolutely owned them. McGregor was showed up in the Euros to call him Mince was an insult to Mince. Absolutely, Mark. We do, Owen. We need a proper right wing. We haven't had one since the Candyman, since Candeas. 100%, Vladdy, we haven't. Shanks and Miovski missed more chances than Dessers, believe it or not. But they scored more goals, though, in the case of Shankland. When you attack that mob with no fear, they crumble. Europe proves that, as teams in Europe have hoped to get Celtic in their group are a joke. Agreed, mate. Absolutely. 100%. If you go at Celtic, everyone knows this. Everyone knows the way to beat Celtic is to attack them, to get in their face, to go at them at 1,000,000 miles an hour. They hate it. Hate it. Gary, my buddy in Florida. The manager has zero interest in Shankland. Fans need to get their heads around it. It's never happening. I've said that all along, Gary. I think that's what I've just said as well. I don't think there's any interest there. Me too, Owen. I have no idea if they ever signed anyone. Lol. Look, guys, a striker is something we need to bring in. I think that's a realistic option. It is, it is a lot of the problem is at the moment we need someone to put the ball in the back of the net. And as I've said, if we brought Miovski in or Shankland in January, I honestly think we win the league. Genuinely do think we win the league. Okay, guys. What Hugster, you had to do it. Just as I was about, there's my dog's leg. You had to finish, just as I'm about to come to an end of this podcast tonight. You had to bring that one, didn't you? Last good wing at the club was Neil McCann. What a legend. That ball into the box for Peter Lovenkrands in that cup final. Wow. I think Barron, I do too, mate. Look, if you go back across some of the videos, I've talked a lot about Conor Barron, haven't I? And what sort of player Conor Barron is and how I think Conor Barron will be a good buy for Rangers. I think he's a quality player. I can't wait for Clement's attacking football next season with his players. Caleb, hopefully, fingers crossed, buddy, fingers crossed. Since Gio, we've all known if you get in their face, they crumble, but for some reason we don't. Vladdy, I don't understand it either, mate. Why don't we attack them? Why don't we go after them? I don't get it. Why in the Old Firm games last season did we sit back in the first halves against them? Don't get it. Best goal ever in a cup final. Oh, mate, seriously, love it. Bobby, that was another one. That was really unpopular in my house. Mate, that was a night, right? So just imagine this. Rangers v Leeds, Elland Road. Okay, you got my dad, who's a Leeds fan, me as a Rangers fan. Can you imagine it, mate? Carnage at that point. Carnage. Okay, guys, we're going to call it a night. Thank you very much, David. I will keep up the great work for you. I'm going to head off now. Guys, as always, it has been amazing having you in. I love having you in here. I love talking to you all. Thank you so much for coming on board. Thank you for your comments. You met Haley, fantastic. Look, it's one of the things that I've always said, that as a podcaster, I never want to lose sight of the fact I'm only here because of you. I only get the views that I do. I only get the subs that I do. I only get, what I get is because of you guys. It means the world, guys. It really does. I've only got them over 1.9 million views because of you guys. So thank you so much. Guys, please obviously check us out. If you're on X, can you do me a favor? If you are on Twitter or on X, go over there after the podcast. Find our new official Glasgow Rangers Nation channel page, Glasgow Rangers Nation Owen James, at OJGRN72, and give us a follow. Thank you for that. I will leave that up as we go out tonight. Guys, as always, the two things I always ask of you, if at all possible, for me, please, smash that. And remember, always, we are the